So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream from ustream.tv and also a live recorded for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I've zoomed in to the Aviary and I'm doing the owl, and I'm using the PH Dr. Martins liquid watercolours, but in order to get this lovely shading effect, this natural blend with a rigger, you've got to use the colours from dry because they are too wet to use this type to get this lovely blend. And that's why I made a mistake earlier when I was using it last week, because you need the rigger and dunk into clean water, take off the excess with a baby wipe, and then you're just touching the smallest amount of colour, and then oops, maybe a tiny more than that, and then you just stroke the colour up until it blends out. And I think all those would be purple, I'm guessing. But again, if I stroke that out, it goes to a nice natural blend. And this would not do that. You've got to keep going back for a completely clean brush. And again, push that colour out so it gives you a natural blend. And you have to do that every time. And you're pushing the colour out of the brush. So you've got a damp brush, a little bit of colour on the end. Oops, and I've just realised. Sorry about that. Not in frame. And you touch the bottom and then tease that damp brush out. And that gives you a really nice blended out effect. So you can have 3 or 4 purples in there instead of just one. And just going in there like that. So if you want that really nice blended effect, you've got to start dark and tease that damp water out of the brush. I think I've got one more there. And so that means that this is pink. So again, and it was this pink that I was using. And again, you're just teasing out a little bit of colour. And that would you've got to learn sometimes that would be pale anyway at the end, so you might get away with doing one darker one, and then you could probably get away with these. And I think that's all you're going to get. So we've got purple around here, so we've got this to do now. We've got these here, and that's purple. So we could do these blue, and then we could go up there in red. So that might look quite nice. And I've still got 3 brushes. I've got 3 riggers. These are just ones that I've bought at a model show, and if you dunk them in water, they go back to shape. I've got a number 3, a number 1, and a number 30. But because these are quite small areas, I'm using the little one, and it's ample. It's enough. So what did I say? We're going to do some blues. Now, going that way for me is going to be difficult. I want to go naturally that way. So I'm going to turn this really carefully so that I can get a nice natural blend all the way up there. And I've got 2 blues. I think I'm going to go for this turquoisey blue. So again, clean brush. If I put this here, you can actually see what I'm doing. So I've got a damp brush, and I'm going to touch a little bit of colour, and I'm going to tease that. And it's a bit like the chameleon pens. Once you start, you can't stop, because you want a lovely blend. Again, stroking in that corner. Keep going. And you do have to do this to the brush every time to get that lovely natural blend without having to do anything apart from stroke that colour out. And I really like this. It's completely different to the other ways and the other books, but this book just lends itself to working like this. Again, there's no pressure on your hands. All bending is in that little brush. And you can do this all day long. You should end up with a natural highlight right on the top. So I haven't worked in this book for a while. I'm just going to make that dark down there, and then the next one we can go up again and round. And it depends on how much of a blend. Now, after a while, your little baby wipe is going to get full of colours. You've got to squeeze it out because you just want a damp brush. If it's wet, it's not going to take anything off here, and you won't get as good a blend. But it depends on how you want it. So if anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. And again, this is another way of working really kind of. But I mean, you know this when you buy this book. If you're going to buy this book, you know it's not going to be, you know, a quick flick, because obviously there's so many tiny little sections to it. But it depends how you want to tackle it. And this is just slowly, and you'd think at first, my goodness, it's going to take forever, but I think it took me 2 days, but not full days, 2 days to do a thumper. It wasn't 2 full days. And I've actually got a little kink on the end of that brush. So I've just got to be, it's just a little tiny tint, just a little twist on the end. And if I don't just get it perfect, and again, you know, turn your wrist so you're very comfortable, because you've got to keep going. That will give you quite an unusual feathered highlighted effect. Just not quite as comfortable as I'd like to be, but and now that's got wet, it's not blending as well. So it blends better when it's dry. So if I go to the dry bit over here, that's giving me the right amount. Now do I want to do 6.2, I suppose. Again, you come to a point where you've got to start thinking about what you're doing. And that's going to be pale, and that's going to be pale, so I can get rid of that one as well. And now we've got kind of a ridge here, so I'm not sure if I want to do it the same colours. So I'm going to leave it because I'm not sure. And as I say, I am at a real funny angle, so we'll get rid of this one here and set this one off. So that's quite a pale one. And I suspect this is going to be a dark one, yes. This is a darker one. I might just take that up there a bit, just a touch. And again, you need to be comfortable, you need to be at the right angle, because you've got to keep going so you get a lovely blend. So one drop of this paint goes an awfully long way if you use it in this way. So you end up making a real nice kind of oh, hi Sandy, welcome back, welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is recorded for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure, and it's also a live stream for Ustream.tv. Welcome back. I'm using my Dr. Martins Hydrus, but I'm using them in a dried form, and if you use them dry you can have this wonderful blended effect. And basically you dunk in a puddle of wet. You take off a lot of the excess, twisting your brush to a point when you do it, just gently touching a dry colour, and then stroking the colour in, and eventually that water from the brush will find its way down and do a lovely natural blend. It's a very methodical, very peaceful way to work. You've got to dunk and dry and touch your colour every single time if you want a beautiful blend. But you don't have to pick up any colour, you don't have to change colour, change paintbrushes, you just stay in the shape. There's probably a little touch of colour on that one. So if you get a bigger, if you find that you've got too much colour, go to a big area and then just blend all that colour out. Sometimes you can tell instantly if you've got too much or if you haven't got enough. So just pick a bigger one and then go back to a little one, because it's all the same. Sorry, I just knocked the camera. just slightly better. Oops. The thing is, I'm very near the camera, so I apologise if I shout. So you need to just... I've got a rogue hair on the end of that. That's not good. Now sometimes you can't stop if you start, because you need that colour to be blended up. You can get a real nice effect with very little effort, and I'm all for that. And again, you use hardly any paint at all. And this is the pot that I keep dunking back in, so none of that beautiful colour is disappearing down the drain. So again, tight Yorkshire lass, like that idea. And it took me a while to come up with this. It took me months to come up with this way of working. Since I made the little book of colours 3 or 4 years ago, I've been playing with paintbrushes and water, and it's taken me an awfully long time to find the rigours that I wanted, the drying, the dunking, the dampness, to get this lovely watercolour effect without having a lot of water. And I use this for Bible journaling as well, because you don't crunch your pages. So it's getting a bit small now, these, and but again, if you've got a darker one, it just adds to it, proves that you just didn't go over the whole lot. You've got to make sure you don't drop your paintbrush, so that's a good idea. And again, because this is, I can just about get an extra couple out of that one, because these are really tiny. That should be really cool when it's all like that. Oh, hi Dorothy, welcome back. I've zoomed into the aviary, and we're doing the owl. So I've had a bit of a pink eye and purple, and now we're doing the, oops, sorry, we're going up there. So I'm using this dot of dried colour, dunking in, and I've got the 3-0 brush, which seems to be doing just okay. And I'm just turn that slightly, because I've got to be a little bit comfortable, because once you start, you've got to keep going. And again, this is a bigger one, so a little space isn't going to do it justice. And again, this is quite nice, because now, if I can go and just get a little tiny bit on the end, I can go and do this one. And so I've just got that little bit of a tail on there. So you need less colour for that one than you would a bigger one. And eventually, going through, you'll get the gist of it. If you photocopy one first and have a play, by the time you've finished a photocopy, you'll have got it down to a T, so you know exactly how damp you need your brush, how much colour you need on the end, how fast to move side by side. Works very similar to the chameleon blendable pens, but the opposite way. This way the water's taking the colour out, the other way is the colour is put back in. But it works on the same principle. But it's still a nice, pleasant, quiet way of working, which I like. If I don't have a kink in the brush. just getting 1 or 2 extra ones out because they'd be very, very pale just on the top. So it means I can just get an extra few out. So if anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. Thanks for joining me, guys. It's good of you to bob in and out. I know everybody has busy things to do. And I just sit here with a paintbrush. And there's a bit too much colour on that, but I can get rid of that one. And again, you can judge where things are. Just need to turn that very carefully. Let's see. Got to be comfortable, that's the other thing. Keep turning the book so it's at the right angle for you, because that's what it's all about. So there was quite a lot of colour on that, but by the time I've teased that all the way up here, and I actually ran out of colour. So if you're really clever, and I'm not, you might just be able to retake that all the way up there. And I couldn't do it because I kept tapping onto the camera, so I spoilt that one. But never mind. I am at a very, very strange angle. I can't get the paintbrush near, so it's, I'll have to change that. Move the chair, because if you're not comfortable, you can't get this angle. It's not easy. But it's so nice when you get a really nice blend right up the middle and perfect. So these Dr. Martins Hydrus ones are going to last forever, unless you use them in a different way. I know a lot of artists, if you look on YouTube, they use them like traditional watercolours, and they throw, quite a lot away. Well, of course, the tight Yorkshire girl, she can't do that. I do like having quite a dark centre and then getting that lovely pale highlight. So I've got quite a lot done, even though I've not been doing it very long. You've just got to pick them off one at a time. And just keep going. Oh, hi Lynn, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else I've missed? Is that Swiss Salou? You'll have to forgive me. I'm really bad at pronouncing. That was terrible. I'm also dyslexic as well, so that does not help. If you put your name in caps, how it's pronounced, I might. I can't think of the word. Not numerically. I know what I mean. Brain in gear. Oh, how children used to learn to read. Duh, can't read. Brain's gone now. But welcome to Bunny's Designs. That's a little bit pale, is that? But Hi Kingo, welcome back. What else have I missed? You can never tell. I can't tell who's about on this. It sometimes tells me that I've got so many, and the next minute it says I've got such and such. So you'll have to forgive me. But it doesn't tell me who's on. I haven't got that. I haven't managed to get that up, and as soon as it kicked me out earlier, I don't touch it now. I don't touch it now. If it works the first time, I just kind of leave it. But welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm having a bit of a play in the Aviary book. Because I kind of messed up a bit, and I was a bit cross with myself, so... and the reason was I'd forgotten you've got to work from dry. If you want to do it like this, of course, you don't have to do it like this. You can do it how you want. But I like working this quite... Now there's a lot of colour on there, so I'm going to do this big one here. And hopefully, if I'm accurate and quick enough, I will get a really nice, subtle blend all the way to the end. And I like that. I use a rigger because it's the only way it will work. The riggers were originally used for the guys, the old masters who did the tall ships. And in order to get all the ropes and sheets and all those lines, they had a rigger. So when you start to draw, the line will continue and it will continue and it will continue until you lift your brush up. But the way I use it is I use a damp brush with a tiny amount of colour, and it's taken me 3 or 4 years to get this. And what that does is you've got just a damp brush, but as long as you're touching and activating that bottom bit, that dampness is flowing down here. And so you have a colour and it will give you a natural blend. So you start with the most colour and it will naturally release the dampness to make a beautiful blend without using different pens, different paintbrushes, different colours. And it works very similar but in the opposite to chameleon pens. Chameleon pens have a lot of colour and they put a blending solution in it, and then as you go the natural colour comes back. So they work from light to dark. This way it works like dark to light. You can't do it with any other brush because you don't have that dampness. And as soon as you touch a large brush, even a large rigger, this will do a huge area. A tiny bit on the end of the brush and all that's damp, and you can work your magic. It's like watercolouring, but you're doing it dry. It's completely dry, is that. Whereas normally to get that effect, you're going to have to be really wet and drop colour in it. So that's why I do it like that. And that's the only way it works. Well, it's the only way it works for me. But as I say, it took me a long time. It took me a long time to get it just right. And that's why I work from dry paper palettes. And that's why my little book works. My little book works because you're working from a dry palette. So you've got tons of control. Instead of having, if you worked from the crayon, the Caran d'Ache colour 2, you would just get 1 colour. 2 if you're lucky. Here you can get 10. And that's why they've all got, every paper palette has got a colour scale. So there's about 600 colours in here. Times it by 10, you've got 6,000. Because you've got at least 10 shades from the darkest to the palest. Same with the blues. All of these. You've got quite a few colours before you get up here. but it only works with a rigger, and it only works from a dry colour, and it's dry watercolour, because oils won't do it. Acrylics you can do it, but you need a lot of water. But of course I'm doing it on a paper that I want to be flat. And I use this for Bible journaling because your pages are flat. So, but I wouldn't use these watercolours in the Bible. Now people do, but I haven't tried it. Where's my little Bible gone now? You can work on here and it's all flat. So I say it took me a long time it took me quite a while to get to this this way of working. Did that answer your question, Lynn? Oh, excuse me, my stomach's rumbling because it's had nothing to eat. I'm going to have a drink of cold tea. So if I carry on up here, I don't actually know who won mine. I hope they liked it. Dee Dee had a competition and I sent the Tigger. And again, I quite like the way that you start down here dark and you keep going and it gets paler and paler and paler. So you have one paintbrush with colour and you just keep going till eventually you run out of colour here. And the best bit is you end up with, this is the water brush I keep putting my paintbrush in. So every time I dunk in there and every time I dunk in here, I am using every scrap of that paint. So as a tight Yorkshire lass, you don't use, and then I'm going straight back into here. Now if you did this with the water and then you coloured in and then you put this in your water, your colour would be wasted in there. This way you can see you're not wasting anything, and as a tight Yorkshire lass, I like that. Did that make sense? So but if you do a photocopy first, by the time you finish your photocopy you'll have cracked it. And that's for any new book. The Harry Potter one I'm messing about with acrylics and oils because I don't know how the pages are going to react, but I'm doing it on a photocopy because if I can get it right on a photocopy I can get it right on a page. The only one that's thinner is a Bible page, and I've been watercolouring on a napkin. And if you can watercolour and colour in and draw on a napkin and it not wrinkle and be a decent colouring practice, once you can watercolour on there, you can watercolour in a napkin and a Bible page. And I mean to get this lovely vibrant watercolour effect. You're not just colouring in. Where's my little red? I've been working in this one, and again I had to colour in a napkin just to get me into the frame of mind of dry, because I've been working quite wet. But the first page didn't matter so much because it was thick paper, and then this is with the Derwent watercolour pencils, and so you get the most beautiful watercolour effects. And again here there's hardly any colour. So you start working, or you work out. Whereas if it was the chameleon blendable pens, you would start palest and you work in, and that gives you the same effect, but in reverse. But absolutely loved working in this. Turn the little robin upside down, there's one at the top as well. And then hopefully the next page I've got that little bit better. Oops, I shouldn't do this with the pages. We had, and I got some really nice blends and highlights and lowlights, very pale colours, and the red cardinal. But it took a lot of practice on napkins to get that way of working. So it's not always just get straight in there with a paintbrush, but if you practice with a photocopy, that will lend you into good stead for. And then if you make a mess of it, you know, it's fine. It's a photocopy paper. Now my I did that for the Colin Thompson Fantastique, and it took me 2 days to colour a full section of books. It took me 2 days. I did it at a model railway show, so it didn't bother me too much. And I messed up there because I was talking. To get that lovely watercolour blend, you have to keep going. And the photocopy took me, I mean, I think this took me a couple of days. But it was a practice, and I didn't like the yellow. And then by the time I'd got to here, I'd found out, well, actually, if you start dark and light, you can start thinking about form. And you kind of think about highlights and lowlights. And you change your colour books. And this works this way because these colours are very vibrant. But I messed up the first page because I worked from here and they were wet. And I couldn't understand why I was making such a pig's ear of it. And then I realised, it took me 3 weeks, I realised I was working from a dry palette. So I know it doesn't work. What, darling?
Sam wants a bowl of the...
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and if I do some potatoes, chip them, we can have them later, can't we?
Yes, you can. Because I did say about putting the new potatoes in the active fry and they'll come out as roast, but whichever's easiest for you. If you just put the new potatoes in, you don't even bother doing, just spray them with oil and pop them in the active fry.
What, 20-30 minutes?
Yep. Sorry about that. Just bless him, he's cooking. He's cooking, bless him. He's been doing the washing, now he's cooking. Oh, do you want to see the clean boy? Alfie's a clean boy. He's been in the bath. You want to see the clean boy? He's lost because he's still wet. So there's a whiff of wet puppy in the air. And it's not a nice smell. But now I've got quite a lot of colour on there, so I've got to give this a... I'm going to do a long one. Oh, I might do that one, look. So again, you get to know that I just touched that extra bit of colour. Now that would have ruined a small one because you wouldn't have got a blend. But it's not so bad. Oh gosh, thank you, doll. Viewers. So you get to know, and that's only because I'd done a photocopy first. The reason there are so many photocopies of this particular one is I bought this book for my daughter when she was doing her exams. I didn't want her to get too stressed, and I thought it would chill her out. So I bought it, and then I thought, oh, I've got to just colour a couple of those. So that's why. And I didn't intend to buy it, and then of course I bought it, and then I messed it up. So I've bought it twice, which is something I've never done before, but I was so cross with myself. So I've actually got one as a practice, and that's what this is. This is in the practice, because if I decide I don't like that, then this is my practice. And I've just got this tiny little kink in this brush. It's because I've been using it for a while now, and as long as I remember to keep it to one side, it won't do any damage. But I'm quite liking this effect. Is everybody okay with that? I've not missed anybody or... and I've tried to zoom in as much as possible. I mean, I can zoom in a bit further so you can really see every stroke and you can see how easy it is. But once you've photocopied a full page or even half a page, it doesn't take long to get to know that, there's a lot of colour on there. And the other thing it does, it teaches you about colour, because you might put one colour next to another and think, oh, we should not have done that. If it's in the book, it's done. If it's on a photocopy paper, it's a piece of paper. So you can sort your colours out. So when you come to do that, and that happened to me a lot in the Colin Thompson one, I made so many mistakes on this one. It took me 2 days to do this one. I made so many mistakes. I thought I'd like a nice dark blue sky. Hated it. Didn't like these bright colours. I love the bright colours, but not in the book. So there's no turquoise, there's no purple, there's no deep green. And it took me 2 days to do this. But again, I could fold this off. It folded up, and it's a piece of photocopy paper. It's not precious. That went in my little book of colours. I didn't have to take the book with me. And I found colours that I liked, and colours that, I really didn't like the reds. I hated the reds and that turquoisey, and I love those colours, but I didn't want them in that book. Now I might do that on another page, but the page I did first of all is all lovely pastel colours with a watercolour effect, and that watercolour effect took me all the way down here and all the way up here to get it perfect. And then after there I got some really nice highlights and low lights. It took 2 days to do that and to play about with that. So a photocopy is always good. Thanks, Marie. It's always good, and again, you sort your colours out. I mean, you might think, oh, why did I put that purple next to that pink? If I'd have put the blue next to there and the pink there, I would have liked that. And again, a photocopy will do that, especially if you're spending, £10 on a book. You want it to look nice. It's going to take you a while to do. And these aren't the children's books that you're going to spend 10 minutes with the kids doing. Then you don't have to fuss about. But because this guy or this lady has spent a long time drawing these and put a lot of effort into it, then I want to put a lot of effort into it. And these really detailed books, and the Imagimorphia and the sketchy stories, this is another one. I don't want to kind of rush in. I've done 2 little sections, but I want to take my time. I want to enjoy the process. I don't just want to slap colour down and get to the next page as quick as possible. This is a bit of a journey, and this is a bit of... every book I do is different. I mean, this one I'm going to have to do under a microscope. Not a microscope, a magnifying glass. I have a magnifying glass on this lamp, and I will have to put it over the camera, because there's no way. I mean, if you think this is a 03 brush, look at this. It's Diddy, and this is my finger. That's Diddy. So, that's going to take some time to do, but hopefully it's going to look pretty good. I've done one, and again, my little book of colours, working from a paper palette. If you bear with me, because I won't be able to find it. It's the first page. That's ink tense. That ink tense is the strongest lagoon purple that there is. But look at the beautiful watercolour effect. That's because it's from a paper palette. The same with this. This is ink tense, but it's from a paper palette. So I've got some gorgeous pale colours. And you can't do that from working from a pencil. Sorry, I've gone on a rabbit dropping again. Rabbit droppings. I've just realised that that's purple and that's purple, but that was pure. I mean, I have really no idea what this is going to look like. And again, I know that I don't like the yellow particularly. So I'm going to make that yellow a warmer yellow by adding a drop of orange into it when I make my next drops. I'm going to do a whole section on colour mixing with the proper colours. The only one I can't get at the moment is French ultramarine, and that's one of the most blooming important ones. So as soon as I can get a French ultramarine, then I'll be doing a full section of colour mixing. And the other reason, sorry, you asked me about the riggers. The other reason is I have really, really bad hands and I cannot sometimes even hold a pen. But I can hold this for hours because I'm hardly holding this pencil, paintbrush, but I'm stroking the page, and all the bounce, all the pressure is in this end of this squidgy. And I'm just stroking it. That's all I'm doing. So I can do this for hours. Whereas I couldn't colour for 2 minutes with a paintbrush, with a pencil or a pen. I have some beautiful pencils and I can't use them. So did that make sense? That made sense. So again, I'm going back to, and this is my water. There's hardly any colour in there. Twisting on a damp baby wipe and then just touching that dry pigment. It's got to be dry pigment, and then you can stroke it and make a blend effect. And that will ensure, oops, that's a funny shaped one, that you get some really nice shapes. Now that was quite dark, so I'm going to go up this one, and then this will be lighter. And then if you have just a top, I think that's purple. I think those are going to be purple. Those are going to be purple, but these are blue. That's a blue, so that can be pale. But as I say, after a photocopy of a page of doing this, you will know instantly how to get it just right. Because I've got books that I paid £1 for, and I do all sorts with those. I cut them up, and oh, I tell a lie, I did. Before I got all these colour books, I've now got about 10 colour books. But the expensive ones, you know, there's no way I'm going to be just chucking paint at them, because I'm not clever enough to get away with it. I have to work easy for me, and this is easy for me. If I had to start scrubbing pencils and blending and felt pens and picking them up, and then I've bought blendable pens, but I can't use them. I've got the only pens I can use are the and unfortunately I bought them for my daughter because she was doing graphics and now she's doing illustration, so she's taken them to uni with her, because I couldn't really justify a set for myself, so I used them, and of course she's taken them with her, are the chameleon blendable pens, and I'd love a set but just cannot justify them. But you can actually, if you've got bad hands, you can actually take the tops off because they're really chunky. And again, you're not picking up 10 pens. You just dunk the colour in. The colour solution takes the colour out of the end of the pen, and you start and you go just the same as this, but it's in the opposite way. You start at the end of a petal and work in. By the time you get to the deepest bit of the flower, you have a lovely blend, a natural highlight. But unfortunately, as I say, they're not going to be on my Christmas list for a bit. but they are actually very good if you've got bad hands. And the reason I bought them, because again, tight Yorkshire lass, you can have refillables. You get little bottles of ink to refill them, and you also get new nibs. So it's a little bit like Trigger's in Only Fools and Horses. He got an award for his brush because he'd had it 30 odd years, but he'd had 3 heads and 4 handles. So it's a bit like that. So the tube, if you look after it, will last you, and you can have new nibs, and you can refill them. And as a tight Yorkshire lass, that's my kind of thing. And the other thing that's brilliant about them is, and they're very vibrant as well, is you get, if you use the shading thing, and that's what gave me the idea of 10 colours, you get 10 colours out of each pen, depending on how much blending solution you put in. So if you've got 10 colours, it's a set of 20. You can walk about in a backpack with 200 markers, which is pretty awesome if you're a student and you don't want to carry all your pens around with you. So again, that's another reason why. Now I'm going to struggle here because I'm not at the right angle. But it was quite a nice little blend there. It wasn't perfect, but it was okay. So these come in different sets, these Hydrus, and they are fab, and there literally is tons and tons of colour. I mean, it's a bottle. And when you think of that drops, just, well, I've not even touched the drop, hardly touched that drop at all here. As you can see, it's a tiniest little mark, and yet I've done all this. So imagine what this is going to do. But I wouldn't have bought the set if I'd have known that you could buy them individually. I would have bought them individually and mixed my own, because that would have been easy, because 2 drops, 1 drop of yellow and 1 drop of red, or half a drop of red, 1 drop of red and 2 drops of yellow would have given me a really good orange. And I think when I get on my next feet, that's what's going to happen, is the Hydrus. As soon as I get the French ultramarine, the Hydrus will be going into the 6 colour, by 6 colours, make 600. Because we got 650 out of 3. And these are professional watercolours as well, so of course that should be dead easy. But they are just nice to touch and use, and very vibrant as well. Again, completely opposite of what I was doing earlier. So again, I love that. I can work different ways. Well, the same technique, but different. Different colours will give you different technique, different. And when you get to something that's a little bit bigger, then you've got to start thinking about changing the brush. But I think this brush is going to be big enough for all these. But again, it's a really nice, peaceful, quiet way to work. And I'm moving my hand from here to here. And my hand likes that. I have arthritis in my wrist, and my wrist can do that till the cows come home. But if I had to kind of stretch over and mix a colour and then do something else, it's just a no-no. So again, I've developed this so that it's easy, and I've made a boo-boo, look. By talking, I've made a boo-boo. So I should be able to get another one out of that. I mean, you're not going to notice too much, but I know it's there. There's a little boy at the other side of the desk. Alfie, are you doing what I think you're doing? Alfie. What's this? Psst, psst, psst. Alfie. What's this? Alfie. It's all quiet. It's too quiet. I didn't realise he was there. That could be a disaster. So, as I say, I love working like this. So, I mean, if you have a dark patch, just keep going. Are you being a bad puppy, Alf? So I hope you found that interesting. I just quite fancied doing that colour. The cat is actually sitting on there, so it's probably one of the reasons. So it's coming along. It's coming along. And you think, I don't know how long I've been doing that. Let me just bear me a second. So if anybody's got anything in caps, anything, oopsie, wrong way. If anybody's got any questions, we put them in caps. But you know, we've got a fair little bit done. But if you had to, if you were doing another kind of watercolouring and you coloured it all one and then you put more colour over the top and over the top, the same with pencils. You know, you get a pencil. And I've watched them. They get a pencil. When you go on the website for the chameleon pens, they have somebody working, because what you have to do with the pens is stand them up and count. And I'm thinking that would drive me insane. Now, luckily for me, my daughter had never played with Copic markers or any marker at all. She had no way of using any marker. So she was perfect for those because she didn't know. If you've used an ordinary marker, well, you pull the top off and you start. So they split the screen and they have somebody working with Copic markers where they start with one colour, they go with another colour, then they blend, and then they do it and they blend. And they have somebody with a blendable pen who has to stand there and count for 10-30 seconds and then start. And it's the same, if not quicker. So even though you've got to stand there and count, and again, I did a practice page because are they in here? But anybody with arthritis, they're fab. No, I don't think they're in here, but they are absolutely fab. And again, absolutely no, I think I'm going to have an avalanche, probably. No pressure on your hands, or very little. See, there's Thumper. That was my first attempt with Thumper. I'll just come out of here a little bit. There's Thumper. And if I put we're in focus. So there's Thumper. And that's the start. And of course it's lovely and dry now. So I can instantly, again that's fab for being out, instantly shut that up. This is dry. That should be dry, but it isn't. It should be dry though. So that's dry. It's a little bit damp, is that? But shut that up. A little bit of water. I'm just going to let that water dry because I've spilt some water out of my dish. Otherwise, you just shut that up and you're away. So that's Thumper. When I was talking about, I was having a play with the Harry Potter pages, so I get a photocopy. Didn't like them, so I'm not doing them in watercolour. That's a practice. That's a practice that I haven't done and I forgot about. This is watercolouring in the car. I did that in the car. And I really liked playing in the car. Because you can take it anywhere. this was the napkin that I photocopied. Again, playing about with the Tigger. Photocopy everything. Again, played with the Harry Potter thing, didn't like it. Wasn't particularly enamoured with it, so decided not to do that. I wanted to show you I think these are all plain ones, aren't they? I'm a bit of a terror for photocopying things, I have to say. I'm a bit of a terror. They're not in here, which is a shame. Because I wanted to show just how much paint you throw away. When I put the Gansai Tambi watercolours in, I used the colour and I got 20 full pages of colour. And I just don't know where that is. Oops, it could be here. Could be. Have a look. These are the sorry about the rabbit trail. These are the blendable pens. This was the first time I ever used the blendable pen. So the first one I did, of course, I didn't put enough blend solution. Second one, too much blending solution. But by the time I'd gone all the way around, I'd got it off to a T. And all you do with it is you start light and you keep going until you get to dark. Exactly the same way I've been working, but backwards. That was my second attempt. I think that was my fourth. This was my third attempt. So they're gorgeous to play with, absolutely fab. They're a tad expensive though, just a little bit expensive. Having said that, if you've got arthritis and you want to colour, and again, the Copic markers are a fortune. So that was my first attempt at skin and flesh. And then I think I did this lady, but I don't know where it is. I did another one. So, and again, I don't usually use bright colours, so again, it was really nice for me to use these. But you start off light, and you just keep coming down until it gets darker and darker. The same with the hair. Darker, pale up, and then pale down. So it doesn't take you long to get there. Thank you, Timothy. But I think they're about £80 for the set of 20, but I've just brought a set of 50 out. Oh yes. And I was hoping Chameleon kind of really liked these, especially when I said for disabled people. They're quite good because they're chunky, so you can actually get them off without pen tops for me. But because these are chunky, I mean, for all these browns in this hair, it's one colour. All this rose here, all those colours in that rose is one pen. All the colours in this is just one pen. And they are so easy to use. You do have to hold the pen up and count. But, I mean, these, to get these with a 5 or 6 markers and blendable whatsits, and that would drive me insane. But beautiful, subtle colours. The one I like the most is this one. I absolutely love this. It's one red pen. One red pen. The same pen did all these, and the green as well. So they're really easy to use. And as I say, because you can get new nibs for them, and you can get inks for the inks are £7. But I would think if you've got the bottle of ink, and the set of inks obviously is going to be a couple of hundred, but you don't have to buy another pen. So it depends how you look at it. But I absolutely love this. And again, you hold the pen, the bigger the leaf, the bigger the petal or the area, the longer you hold the brush for, the longer you hold it up. So the blending solution is taking out all the colour from the nib. And then, so the end of the nib, it's a bit like the opposite of my paintbrush. So the end of the nib is pale and all your colours back in your felt pen. So you start pale and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going and more colours coming, and then eventually you get better at going round things. And you end up back to the original colour of the felt pen. And there's two nibs in the felt pens. There's a bullet end and there's a brush end. This is a bullet end, and then you can use the ordinary end as an ordinary felt pen. So these are just the hard bullet ends as a normal felt pen, but to use the other end you use the blendable. But I mean the colours even on their own are fab, but they just are a little bit expensive. But if you put them next to Copics and all the others, then you know they're not. And did somebody said they bought one for £400? Did I read somewhere $400 or something? Somebody bought a pen set. So they're definitely to go on the Christmas list, and that was my first attempt. As I say, the first one I did was not right, but by the time I got round to here, I really knew what I was doing. And I did that in about 10-15 minutes maybe. You can do a petal, I think about 4 minutes. I did a video actually, but I think it got lost. But there should be a video about the chameleon blendable pens. But they're flipping awesome. They are pretty good. I think that was my third attempt. And that was about my fourth. And I copied Dee Dee with the dark backgrounds, because I thought she'd look quite good with a dark background. And again, it's photocopy paper. It's gone through. It's photocopy paper. And some pretty cool effects on the other side. I think they're all photocopy paper apart from this one, because this one is the original out of a book. But I don't like doing mandalas because they drive me scatty. So that's the only one. All the others are on photocopy paper. Oh, I think that was my second attempt, that one. And then I think that was my third. But as I say, one felt pen, pretty good. And so I did do this young lady as well, and I realised why it wasn't as easy on here. And then I realised this is the original. So on a photocopy paper you get some beautiful marks, whereas it's a bit more difficult on other papers. But of course if you photocopy it and do it, you've still got the original to do a watercolour or to do something else in something else. So I hope you found that interesting, and I've gone a bit on a rabbit trail, but this, oopsie, but that's what happens if you've got a small long section to do. You start across and you keep going, and then if you want to do dark to light, you can kind of do it in sections. But because this was a little bit bigger, I thought I'd do the owl, differently. So the owl's different. So even though I'm using the same kind of way, I'm using it differently. So that the pictures should be different. I'd hate to have a whole book of identical things. So I hope you enjoyed that. And for all the people on YouTube land, thank you for watching.